Hey guys, and welcome to another Part of Exile video. Today we're gonna talk about some changes in the league that make Part of Exile a lot better in my opinion, also for more casual players. Yeah, we're just gonna go straight into it. But I still wanna make this video also for new players because I think there's a lot of people from Diablo 4, Last Epoch, and so on are coming to this game now as well because a lot of people that never really played ARPGs, I could see that in my stream chat, they maybe also want to try out Path of Exile. And we all know Path of Exile is a bit more complicated, but it gets less complicated this patch. I also want to make it for beginners, not only for the experienced players. We're going to talk a bit more about the basics as well in this video. Let's start for the beginners, right? Path of Exile is still the same, where the campaign can be really tough. Especially like if you want to try to make your own build, it's not going to work 99% of the time. So you still want to make a build, but that should still not demotivate you, because even if you follow a build guide, and to be fair, let's just be real, the most people in Diablo 4 and Last Epoch, where the games are way easier to understand, are still following build guides. I could see that whenever Race QT was playing his Wraith Lord in Last Epoch, and then like 2 days after, like 50% of the people in my chat was asking me stuff about how do I make a Wraith Lord character. So people are following builds, right? Everywhere. And in Path of Exile, the itemization is so insane, right? You have a lot of stuff to do. Even if you follow a build, it's still gonna feel like your own character in the end game, because you always have something to upgrade, you always have something to farm, and it's still really, really good. By the time you get more experience, then you can maybe like swap some things around in builds or try certain stuff out, because you're gonna get currency, you can respec sometimes, and just try things out if you really, really want to. I would still not recommend it with your first character. Maybe make one proper character that can farm some certain stuff, and then do a second character where you try things out if you really want to. But you're gonna see it's really, really hard in PoE. I mean, I would just follow someone's build. It's still gonna feel really, really good. Just trust me on that. Like, let not have this stuff demotivating you. But yeah, other than that, the campaign is also getting harder. Yeah, I know that's not good news for new players, right? Like, what? I didn't even complete the campaign last time. Now it gets harder. Again, follow a build guide. There's a lot of awesome build guides. The campaign gets harder basically because normally you have like league mechanics, right? It's a new league on the 29th. And normally you have league mechanics where, as an example, there is like purple pillar that spawns monsters. So if you click on it, it spawns a lot of monsters that are way harder. They give you more rewards, but they were way harder. So you can basically choose like, yeah, I click on the pillar and I get more rewards. Or I just leave it and, you know, I just run to the next zone in the campaign and just don't care about it. With this league mechanic, always when you enter a zone, so like we would left click on the zone, I'm just gonna make, so you have like this window here, so we would go to the next zone, and we're gonna have here 3 options to buff certain monsters in the next zone. So we cannot say like, oh yeah, we don't want to buff any monsters. There's going to be monsters that are rather more tanky, do more damage. There's also things that gonna help you, like you can have, as an example, that you spawn shrines into the next zone, which is like buffing you, right? So they can give you like speed, damage, or whatever. So stuff like that exists too. So there's like bad modifiers and good modifiers. Whatever you chose, you basically, whenever you make monsters stronger, that means they also drop more loot and stuff. It still gives you more stuff, right? So maybe it's not even that much harder because you get more rewards. We don't know that. We have to see when we play it. But there's just like so many strong builds nowadays in Path of Exile. Like, I mean, people are playing this for years. I play this for years. We have figured out some awesome stuff. So like whatever they patch in the story, we come behind that. So as long as you just follow those build guides, it should be really, really easy for you. To be fair, like following a build guide is basically check the vendors, try to get the same sockets than we recommend, and then just put the GAMs inside of it. It's basically really, really easy to understand. So like as long there's like lines between those GAMs, they are linked together, so they work together, right? If you hover over them, the sockets are white, so you hover over your main skill and you can see, okay, this support is doing something, this one is doing something for it, because they're like all just white with a border. It's really easy to see that, and the build guides are just explaining it way, way more. I'm not gonna go into specifics here now, right? And so basically that is going to be the same thing, but what was always a problem for the most people that was reaching the end game, they was just confused about what to do and how to choose their maps or whatever. There's people that are just going to delve, which is like just like a mine. It's like the endless corruption in Last Epoch or Greater Rifts in Diablo 4. So they just go in there and they don't really care about anything at all. There's people that are just going to bossing and they don't really care about anything at all. But everyone that wants to play kinda normal game, which is like mapping. So this stuff here. So for the people that was going to mapping, there's a lot of stuff you kind of want to do to get like a lot of currency. And sadly, how social media and internet and all that stuff works is you're gonna go to a game, maybe you want to like check out on Twitch what someone else is playing, getting some tiers. But meanwhile you are doing that, or YouTube, you're gonna see, oh yeah, this dude gets a lot of loot explosions. I want that too. You're gonna make your way up, like even to the end game, like even to the red tier maps, which is just a higher version. So basically, it's like you do a tier 1 map, you can drop tier 2 maps, then you do tier 2 maps until you drop tier 3 maps, until you are all the way up here, right? You can also just farm on low tier maps, certain things, but whatever. So basically, whenever you see those guys doing tier 60 maps, their experience is going to be like way different than yours. That's the people that have like a lot of years of experience and whatnot. What basically they do is you maybe even have like a similar strong build than them. They have a more specified build than you for certain things, and they're gonna juice the maps a lot. This juicing is basically, as an example, you can have these stones in here and you can like roll them with sections. Well, I have some left here now. And basically you can roll them and they give like different stats, please. Thank you. As you can see, this changed, right? So they give different stats. There's people that are rolling really specifically certain stats on them, and this costs a lot of money. So as a new player, you're never gonna have the money to like do maps like that. And even if you have the currency to like roll your next maps really, really good, because those things only hold for 4 maps, right? Or 3 if you don't skill it in your Atlas tree. After 4 maps, you have to do all this stuff again. You can also buy those sections, kinda, those bars for the stones, and they count for every map you run. So you're gonna have like 4 juiced maps that cost a lot, and they cost really a lot, especially like the threats that most people are running. Right? So they're gonna spend a lot of currency to run 4 maps and try to get more currency out. Well, this is not always gonna work. Well, now we had the Affliction League where it was different, but normally you not always gonna get your currency back in those 4 maps. And especially as a new player, you don't really like see the currency, right? This is feeling like it's a really, really bad feeling for a new player. Like even though you made the currency back, you have it in so many different type of currencies that you have to trade for an hour again to like get your maps going again. And people that are mostly farming this, they have already so much currency that they don't care, like that they don't get the currency back in 4 maps because they have currency for another 100 maps, right? So they just like run it over and over again. They just like must buy everything, but that's also making all the prices up for those things. And the normal players have a really hard time to keep up. Like the people that have a job, that have a family and stuff like that, right? You're gonna fall a lot behind. Normally you play those games for yourself, but you're always gonna see what other people can achieve. And it's still gonna affect your gameplay, because you could be now one of the guys that are actually farming the stuff for them, but like rolling those hexons is basically really, really boring. You just stand in your hideout and then you roll them until you have good mods, and then you sell them to the players that are actually want to use it. It's really, really boring. No one's really want to do that. There's certain people that are doing it, luckily, right? But all those things are getting deleted in the next league. Hexons are just purely not existing anymore. Scarabs is another thing that you can use. They are getting reworked where they're gonna make a lot more sense, and they're just gonna be way different. So it's not gonna like be too hard. Also, normally scarabs is something you farm in really specific areas. So it's again, certain players are farming them, selling them to the other players. So it's again like a money desync. Now it is like they are like global drops, so they can drop everywhere. So you can just sustain them yourself. Maybe you're not gonna run the min-max scarabs all the time if you don't want to spend some currency on your maps. It should resolve in everything a lot cheaper and everything a lot more accessible, and also everything a lot more brain dead, because you basically just make the maps with the stuff that you have and you are good to go. Obviously you can always min-max that. I gonna min-max it, right? I gonna run the same 4 scarabs every time, but this is like way easier than running scarabs, hexons, delirium mobs and whatnot. I actually gonna run a strat where I don't have to care about my maps that I roll. I just have to always get those 4 scarabs and I'm good to go, because they changed some stuff in the Atlas tree as well, which is skill tree for the maps that you can activate certain mods on them or whatever, have different leaks on them. But yeah, so basically all this complicated stuff in the end game is mostly gone. It's still part of Exile, it still has a lot of depth, and you can still min-max things. So for the people that want to min-max things, don't worry, there's going to be strats. In my opinion, this should resolve into people that are new not falling behind so much anymore because they don't have that much time or whatever. Because, you know, like you technically don't need to have investment to also start dropping things. The thing is with the new Atlas, you basically make your maps a little bit harder. So that's still a thing, right? Like you want to get a good build going, but you can upgrade those things step by step, and it's going to feel a lot better than just like you cannot do currency because you don't have currency, right? So it's like at the moment it's like rich gets more rich. Later on it's going to be like, yeah, you cannot really do that because you need one more upgrade. So you know, okay, I'm gonna farm for that one more upgrade. Your character is gonna feel stronger and you can do stronger things, right? So this is a normal progression. It's also gonna be, in my opinion, a lot better for SSF because you don't really have to farm like tons of different areas to like get your maps up till you drop the unique items that you want, right? They changed something also about divination cards, and now it's getting a bit more specific for the people that are already playing. So this is like the basic. I also want to talk about something. There's this Atlas tree, right? Like right now, you're basically gonna skill stuff. As an example, just to show you for the new players, you can have maps contain an additional strongbox, which is a box that spawns monsters and they drop loot, obviously. So it's more XP and more loot, right? So like really, really simple. There's more complicated stuff in the Atlas too. At the end of the day, it's really simple, right? Basically, you basically have to decide what you want to farm. And if you want to reskill this, it's gonna cost currency again. You need certain items to remove points in the Atlas trees. But now with the new league, you can have 3 templates here. So you can choose between Atlas 1, Atlas 2 and Atlas 3. So if you want to farm certain things, because maybe you want to farm bosses the one day, and then the next day you just want to map and you just want to farm strong boxes and all that stuff. So you can just swap between atlases for free. You can make 3 templates. So you can have one atlas for mapping, one for bossing, and one for whenever progressing the atlas, right? So like whenever you don't really have a lot of maps, you can use that to like get more maps. Like you can increase the map drop chances by that. You can make that already and prepare those. It's going to be really, really easy. Well, again, this sounds complicated as a new player. There's a lot of people that have their Atlas strats as a link, so you can just copy paste whatever they are doing. And then, you know, by the time you're just gonna see like, oh yeah, he has this one point. He spawns legions like the purple pillars that spawns monsters. I don't want to do that. So you can reskill that and try something else out, right? It's gonna cost you a few points. But then again, if you just want to respec that, it's still better than respecking your whole Atlas tree all the time, right? This is going to be really, really easy as well. So now for the more experienced players, something that I really, really like. A lot of people don't want to farm the same map over and over again. But we kinda have to if we want to farm stuff like Mage Blood, Headhunter, or stuff like that, which is really, really good chase unique items in Path of Exile. They are really rare. And you can get them over divination cards as well, which is like a card. If you have it a certain amount of times, you can give it to a vendor and he gives you the exact item. It stays on the map. So there are certain maps that drop only specific cards. Like Burial Chambers is dropping the Doctor card, which is for a Headhunter. It's just a really, really good belt. You kind of want to farm Burial Chambers over and over again every day of your life, right? Until you have that Headhunter. Well, now with the new Divination Scarab, it basically makes that every map that is favorized, so basically over here, always have their divination cards drops allocated whatever maps you run. So that means you could run, as an example, a volcano map and you can still drop Doctor's cards with that one scarab. So you just gonna get those scarabs and you can farm it everywhere. So you can run different maps. Maybe there's just a layout you like way more, or maybe you just don't really want to do the same stuff over and over again. So you just want to swap your maps. This also makes the map sustain a lot easier, because if you just run different maps as well, you don't really have to worry about your map sustain, because you're gonna sustain tier 60 maps easily if you can run all of them, right? This is going to make it a lot better and a lot easier also for new players, just to farm certain specific items. I think those are really, really good changes, especially for casual players, especially for players that don't want to like study 2 years before going into the game. So the end game looks really, really good now for casual players, in my opinion. Also, there's a new system about bosses. So basically you do tier 16 maps and sometimes it can drop a tier 17 map. They're really rare. They don't sustain themselves, so you don't have to like, it just doesn't give you the option to sustain them yourself, so you don't have to like be worried about not sustaining them. It's just how the game is gonna work. They give you new bosses. And those bosses can drop you sets for the Uber bosses, which is just bosses that we already know, but they're just way harder and drop special unique items. So also certain unique items that are just really, really good for certain builds. So the progression for bosses is also really, really simple. So you do tier 16 maps all night long. You get some tier 17 maps, and then if you play Trade League and you don't have a boss character, you can sell them to other players, or you have a boss character, or you play solo 7 and you want to try it out or whatever. You can run them. You don't have to worry about sustaining them, because sustaining them is not going to be a thing because they don't gonna drop them themselves. This is making the prices for Trade League really good. Otherwise, there's RNG involved if people are sustaining them. So they're gonna be like some people that never buy tier 17 maps, but they still run them. So it changes like the whole item prices and stuff like that. And you would have to like min-max your strats that you can get as many mobs possible on those maps to just sustain them. But this is not going to be a problem because they can just not drop tier 17 maps themselves. It's again less uncomplicated. You just drop it and then you rather run it or you sell it, right? It's simple. It's really simple. You're going to do all the stuff and then you can do the Uber bosses. And then again, you can sell the fragment to the Uber boss or you can run it yourself. And that's it. Like you just have to do this decision and then you decide, do I want to run it myself? Obviously, if you try to run the set and you fail it, you lose currency because you didn't complete the boss. But I mean, right? That's fine. Like, you know it for the next time that he is really, really hard. Or you just gonna sell it and get the safe money out of it. So all in all, it's really, really simple to run maps now. And yeah, all those things are making the game, at least for me, a lot better because I hated, like I play trade leagues only, right? I hated always to like always have to trade with 100 different peoples or whatever, getting a lot of different items and then selling all those a lot of different items to sustain a currency, right? Like especially in the beginning, if you're doing this juicing mapping threads, at some point obviously you're gonna like have those crazy amount of self-sustain, so you don't really care about it anymore. But the beginning of it was always a struggle. I just never really liked it, so I didn't even wanted to do it. I was doing it because it was good, but now that all those things are gone, I don't have to think about it anymore, and it just makes it a lot better for me because I'm a grinder, but I don't want to spend my whole lifetime just staying in the hideout and trading with people. So all that stuff is gonna fall away, and I can finally play the game again and just run a map after map when I want to run maps, because the last time I just was going into Delve and all those things where I don't have to care about other players. So now I can also finally play maps again and don't care about other players. So I really, really like this. I'm gonna end the video here. I hope this is also giving you a better feeling about the upcoming league. In my opinion, it's going to be really, really awesome. I kind of understand the people that are like just used to like always choosing your maps. It's still gonna be like you can run harder maps and get more rewards, right? So choosing is not gonna fall completely away. It's just not gonna be that complicated anymore. So a lot more people have access to it. So yeah, you can still do that, right? If you're just a hardcore gamer, don't worry. You still have your things to do in this game. It's not gonna be as simple as Diablo or Last Depot or whatever. It's still gonna be complex, a lot more accessible for everyone. So all in all, for me, that's a big W. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're gonna enjoy the league. Hope I'm gonna see you guys in my streams and see you. Bye bye.